Okay, so to analyze your EKG, you're going to do a very methodical step-by-step process. Sometimes when we look at the EKG and we also are taking care of the patient and they have a lot of things going on, we get really overwhelmed and we think, oh, I don't even know what I'm looking at. Look at all those squiggles and wiggles and what do all those things mean, okay? So if you're very methodical about it and measure, remember we have these criteria, we have rules to help us figure out what's going on, okay? So the first thing that you're going to do when you look at your rhythm, okay, is you're going to see, is there a P for every Q or S? Remember we drew a heart, okay, and we had our SA and AV node, right? If the SA and the AV node are working properly, then when the SA node fires, you get a P wave. When the AV node fires, you get a QRS. So every rhythm that is normal or okay should have a P for every QRS. So if you do indeed have a P for every QRS, then you have some sort of sinus rhythm because it's starting in the sinus node, okay? If you do not have a P for every QRS, then you've ruled out everything that you know that is sinus. So the first thing you're trying to figure out is, do I have a sinus rhythm? If the answer to do I have a P for every QRS is yes, then you do indeed have a sinus rhythm. So the first thing you want to figure out is, do I have a sinus rhythm? The second thing is my rhythm regular? So if you get your strip and you cut it so that you have 2 3-second hash marks, okay? So now I have a 6-second strip. I can count it and multiply by 10. So the QRSs times 10 will give me the rate, okay? And then I want to go and I either want to take calipers, draw on a piece of paper, mark my, I can show you how to do that. Mark where my QRSs are, okay? So let's say I have a rhythm here, okay? Then what I would do is, if I don't have calipers, I could take a piece of paper, okay? And I could mark where my QRSs are on my paper, and I could go along and I could see, are my QRSs the same distance apart as I go along the whole strip? If they are the same, sometimes nurses will say the QRSs march out. If the QRSs march out, that means that they're the same distance apart. That means they are regular, okay? There are a lot of rhythms that are regular, and there are a lot of rhythms that are irregular. So now you're ruling out, or you're identifying, is this a regular rhythm or an irregular rhythm, okay? The next thing that you want to know is, do I have a wide or narrow QRS? In order to be a wide QRS, that means that your QRS measurement is, remember we wanted it less than 0.12 to be normal, then it's greater than 0.12. If it's equal to 0.12, then it's borderline, but we're still going to call it narrow. Okay, narrow is also normal, less than 0.12, okay, or normal. Why do we care about this? Because this is going to help you a lot. If you have a narrow QRS, then you know your impulse is starting at the atrium, okay? It's in the atrium. That means you've ruled out all of your ventricular rhythms. So if your QRS is narrow, or less than 0.12, you have an atrial rhythm, okay? If your QRS is wide or greater than 0.12, you have a ventricular rhythm. That rules out a lot of different things. And when we're looking at a rhythm and we're getting really overwhelmed, this will narrow us down and really help us out, okay? Whether something is sinus tachycardia, ventricular tachycardia, supraventricular tachycardia, meaning it's above the ventricle, okay? We would have a narrow QRS. So you have to ask yourself, do I have a ventricular or an atrial rhythm? think about, if my answer up here was sinus, I have a P for every QRS. That means my impulse is starting up here in the SA node. Then I don't have a ventricular rhythm because I know I'm starting in the SA node. I have P waves. Okay? Then you're going to go through and measure and make sure that your PR is okay, and we've already measured our QRS, and that our QT is okay. All right? Your PR interval is going to tell you if it's prolonged, it's going to tell you if you have a block. Okay? If it's prolonged. Remember, we want it to be 0.12 to 0.2. Your QT, the only thing we really care about with the QT is there are a lot of drugs that will prolong your QT. Remember, the QT is from the QRS to the end of the T. Do that in a different color. Okay, it's the Q to the T. If this gets longer and longer and longer, you can see how it's pretty soon it's going to go into and interfere with this beat. When the electricity is not organized and neat, then the heart could perhaps go into a lethal rhythm. Okay? So we don't want a prolonged QT interval. So prolonged equals problem. Okay? And then do I have any abnormal beats? Is there a beat that doesn't look the same? Another really important rule is every cell, as it produces electricity, the picture we make is unique to that cell. Okay? So if we have multiple cells firing electricity, they will all make a different picture. The waveform will look different. So, for example, a premature ventricular contraction is going to look very different than your other beats. Okay? And let me give you an example, because PVCs or premature ventricular contractions are one of the most common things that we see. Okay? So if you have I want to make sure you guys can see this. Here's our regular beats going along. Okay? There we go. All right. So we've gone along and we've measured, and we have a P for every QRS except for this one, in which case I would just ignore that one until I was finished analyzing my rhythm. Okay? So you would go along and see I have a P for every QRS, right? Here's my P's. Okay? So I do have a sinus rhythm. Then I would look at my rate, okay? And let's say that my rate is 80. Heart rate is 80. Okay, so that's good. That's normal. That's between my 60 to 100. And then, is it regular? I could take a piece of paper or calipers, and I could march out and say, well, if there was a beat here, yeah, they would all march out. Okay? So then I would say I have a normal sinus rhythm. NSR, normal sinus rhythm. And I'm going to go over the sinus rhythms and different things here in a minute. Or on a different video clip, excuse me. Okay, so normal sinus rhythm. Do I have a wide or a narrow QRS? Well, let's say that my QRS here, I'm measuring from here to here. And of course, the way I drew it, it looks wide. But let's say my QRS is 0.08. It's two of those little boxes. 2 times 0.04 is 0.08. All right? So I have an atrial rhythm. I know it's atrial. I have a P for every QRS. So if I get a measurement where my QRS is too big, I need to go back and see, because that doesn't make sense. If I have P waves, I should have an atrial rhythm. Okay? So I have an atrial rhythm, and then I measure everything. My PR is normal. Okay, everything is good. Do I have abnormal beats? Well, yeah, this one looks funny. There's no P wave. Okay, so it's probably not atrial, but let me measure. So I would measure the QRS, where it comes back to baseline, is here. That's definitely wide, right? So let's say my QRS here is like 0.24 or something. Okay, it's 6 little boxes. That tells me I have a ventricular beat here. Okay. So, and it's coming in early. It's coming in before any P waves. So it's jumping the gun. It's coming in early. So I have a premature ventricular, because it's wide, contraction. The other beat type of beat that I could have is a premature atrial contraction. The difference is it's atrial, so it should be narrow. So then I would have a beat, instead of this, I would have one that looks just like this, only it would come in early. Okay, so maybe my P starts here, near my T wave. So as I'm marching them out, everything marches out except for this one that came in early. Okay, and then the other thing about it is a PAC generally looks identical to these other ones because it's the same cell, it's the same SA node, but it just jumped the gun. It got excited and it fired early. Okay, so that would be when you're looking for abnormal